Okay, so how have you guys been?
Good.
Good?
Busy.
Real busy?
I always hate when people say busy, but actually, then I started saying like my life's joyfully full, and then I was like, sometimes it's just full, and like
Joyfully full.
sometimes it's just very full.
That,
Not bad.
Full, but it's good, like,
Yeah,
in a
it's
good
not
way.
bad. I think it's just there's a lot of moving parts right now, which I feel like is every part of life, but
yeah, but right before a wedding?
Yeah,
Because how
when you've
long are we out from the
less
wedding?
than 3 months now.
Yeah, so that is a joyfully full
And it's like not.
moment.
We're honestly we've just been kind of waiting at this point because I'm very
Yeah.
type A, and so I had like a lot of stuff planned before we were engaged, and like we have convenient connections. Like he works at the church we're getting married at. My parents own the venue.
Yeah,
My
the
dad
venue.
grows flowers. So like we had a bunch of that stuff
That's
already kind of
good.
worked out, which was nice.
You can't beat that.
No, but then we've just been kind of like almost waiting now, where it's like all of the logistical stuff is like done. We're just waiting for the weather to be nicer because people would hate being at camp right now for a reception. Like the snow is up to like my ribs.
Is it really?
So like,
Is it
I mean,
that-
it's probably a little condensed now since it
melted
rained,
down a little bit, but,
and it rained a bunch the other day. But otherwise, I mean,
So then
we're
you,
just kind of waiting.
and then you guys are wrapped up in, so you work as a nurse.
I work as a
and are you
nurse.
at night shift?
No, I am off nights now.
You are off
which
nights
is nice.
now.
I
That's
work.
good.
I transferred up to Ashland a couple months ago. I'm in the ER there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you
so
like
that's-
that?
I do. I like it a lot. My manager's
love
amazing.
ER.
You do?
I loved. I got sentenced there to
You
work
a
40 hours
nurse?
of community service.
Oh.
Because I was a bad driver. I
Oh.
got too many speeding tickets when I grew up.
Oh, okay.
But they sentenced me to the emergency room. But I had 40 hours and I loved it. Like I
Okay.
was that close to becoming an EMT.
Nice.
Like
Oh, wow.
that close. I was like,
Huh.
Yeah.
this is amazing. Like I
Yeah.
want to be in your.
That's
Like
really
this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it didn't go that way. But yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's fast, and you're like always learning.
And you never
then-
know what's gonna happen.
No, and you never know what's gonna happen. But I think it helps you keep sharp on like all of your basic nursing skills, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like one of the previous units I was on was OB-GYN up north. I mean, you can't predict when moms and babies are gonna come in. So
Right.
it wasn't like a very steady patient population, and I think that was kind of hard sometimes where I was like, I don't really feel super confident because I don't get to practice it like every single day,
Yeah.
assessing moms and babies because they're not always in there. So
Okay, so let me ask you this for the record.
yeah.
Is the full moon and birthing babies, is there any tie into that really? Because my
Okay,
wife
when
and I
there-
debate this.
when there are
I'm like,
pressure-
there's no way.
When there are
There's no
pressure
way.
drops or like big storms or full moons, yes, we tended to get
It
more
really
patients
does? It
because
really-
it affects women's bodies. Because if you have a sudden pressure drop, sometimes they'll suddenly start contracting, or their water will break,
I
or
thought she was making it up.
no, when there's pressure changes and like atmospheric pressure changes, absolutely we'd get
Really?
yeah. Or sometimes you
Wow.
have, like we always say, sometimes the crazies come in like at full moons, and sometimes that's true too.
I'm
I don't
gonna
know
have
what
Zach-
it is about the moon, but it has a weird pull on people.
We're going to edit this part out so my wife doesn't see it. She cannot be right. Like, I'll never live that down forever.
Yeah, it's kind of true. But yeah, so I just transferred. So we've had a busy couple of months since we got engaged, like
Yeah.
camp. And then like camp's always just crazy busy. And the fall especially, like you're getting everything shut down for the year. And I found out I had to have 2 surgeries before we get married.
Oh, boy.
And I switched jobs because I was tired. Like night shift, I was just not the same person. I wasn't
Night's gotta be
happy.
hard.
Like I was cranky, and I'd be like, Braeden, I don't know why I'm cranky, and I know I'm cranky, and it's not you. And I'd just be like crying the next day because I wouldn't want to sleep because I'd want to like function like a normal human.
Right.
And like people don't get it when you work nights. They're like, oh, what days do you work? And so I'd always say like, well, I work Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday. Like, oh, you can hang out Wednesday. And I'm like, but my life's completely flipped of yours. Like,
Yeah.
I have the same like 12 hours to work, but that so it's just unless you've worked nights, I feel like you don't quite understand
No.
the life flipping and how
No.
awful that is. So I just like wouldn't like the person that I was going into nights because I'd be desperate to try and sleep. I was a terrible sleeper during the day. I'd go to work, like be struggling to make it home because I have a 40-minute commute home.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I'd like go see Braeden later that day after I take a little nap, and I'm just cranky. Or we'd be like teaching religious ed that night. I'm like, it's not you. I'm just tired.
Oh.
I just like I'm not as good of a person when I work nights. It's just
kinda
like
hard.
it is hard.
It just takes a toll.
It
Like,
does.
a lot of-
Like in a lot of ways.
And you as a couple as well.
Yeah,
I
oh
would
yeah.
imagine, yeah.
Yeah, where I was like, it's not us that's the issue. It's me not
Right.
sleeping that's the issue. So
Right.
I don't know. So I transferred in like late November, early December to Ashland, where I can work days, which is super nice.
Oh, wow.
And my manager up there, she's Catholic and she's wonderful. I was just talking to her today. But
That's great.
yeah, so I
That's
switched
great.
jobs, and Braden's working at the church.
Yeah, you're at the
and-
church. Are you the
Yeah.
DRE and youth minister?
Just
the
youth minister. We've got a team of like 4 people that are like kind of the ministry team.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So, yeah, it wasn't like I was just thrown in and like told to like
Take care of everything.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Fix these kids.
Yeah, that seems to be what happens
Right.
to some people. Is it's like, oh, we don't have a youth minister or anything, so come in and like just do it.
Just do
That's
something.
kind of what happened to the lady Anna. That's
I was going to show you
in
guys.
charge of it, yeah.
I'm sorry. We were driving today. There's a beautiful farm up here, like right here
Uh-huh.
on the right.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
Wow. You know what's funny? I think I grew up there for like 23 years of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. That's my dad's flower farm.
That's right.
Raising my mom.
And I
Different
learned
friends.
about the hawks
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and everything. So
Yep.
I'm sorry. So okay, so you have a ministry team, and they didn't throw you all into it and everything.
Yeah, it wasn't like, here, take control of like all of our ministry stuff. Like,
Yeah.
It just
'cause I think that's what happened to like the previous couple people is like someone leaves and they don't have anyone, and so like Anna came in not
Yeah.
knowing like what they had been doing. So
Right.
I don't know. When I came on, she kind of explained like this is the direction we're moving in with the parish, and like they're doing a lot of like family ministry too, which
Yeah.
is really cool. And so
that's
Yeah.
good.
yeah, I'm mainly with like the middle schoolers and high schoolers. We do stuff on Wednesday nights, and then there's someone else who's with like younger kids.
Yeah.
They do catechesis of the Good Shepherd.
Oh yeah.
I don't know much about the program because I haven't done any of it, but it
Yeah.
sounds really cool. Like
Yeah.
getting kids involved.
It's starting to take off in our diocese a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does get the kids and the families involved, and getting the families involved too. I hear so many adults talk about how they feel like I had an adult comment on one thing we did that like I wish I had this when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I missed out. I feel like I wasn't absorbing. I don't absorb things. I didn't absorb same things then like I do now.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think like I love that they use like tactile, like kinesthetic learning. Like kids learn when they can see and touch and feel, and like
Yeah.
that's what they do. They like have the little altar and like
Yeah.
they let the kids like actually to see what's going on up there, so it's not just a mystery. They kind of understand it more, which is
Yeah, like when I was first.
okay. This is a good big hill up here. We
Okay,
go
good.
hawking down here in this river.
Oh,
it's a
good.
creek.
so
To the Trim Bell. Doing great.
great.
We could pause and run up this next hill if you want.
Oh my gosh.
We could, and I could drive up it and just like
Well, Braden could run
be
it, I
there
guess.
for you.
I just had surgery, so
no,
you're
that's
up.
okay.
You're up.
I'm perfectly content right here.
Yeah, the hill.
So
Yeah.
when was your dad that one time?
Yeah, we went
Yeah.
right down here. It was where Braden saw his first.
I got to watch
Yeah,
the
his
hawk
first flight
catch
ever
a
was
duck
right here.
right above my head.
Really.
Yeah, I thought it was
That
gonna
was
land on you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for anyone that's watching or listening, Cheryl is your mom
Yep.
who bought camp along with
Yep.
your dad and your family
Yep.
that we interviewed a couple of months ago.
Yep.
Wink, wink.
Yep.
So that's a good tie-in.
Yeah.
To that. Yeah, because I told her I said, I thought I was cool that we had a pet pigeon that I could like catch in midair and like nope, I'm not. You have hawks.
It's so medieval. Like
It's so
it's
awesome.
funny because I grew up with like that was normal for me, was to go downstairs and we'd have like some goshawks that my dad like that had hatched recently, so I'd go down and pick up the quail meat with the tweezers and put it in Pedialyte and feed it to the birds. Like that was normal
Wow.
for me growing up. Or like going hawking and I'd have my American Girl doll with me, like climbing over snowbanks going to get this dead duck, and my dad would be like, oh no, what did he say? Oh, one time he was like, oh, it's not quite dead yet, but it was pretty injured, so we didn't want to be mean to it.
Right.
So I'm like 5 and I broke its neck because I was like, well, that's what we do if the
Oh wow.
if the duck's injured and we can't release it. Because he had a bird that would catch them, but she was so gentle that they wouldn't be hurt at all, so you could release them. But this one was like pretty injured, so we were like, well, we got to put it out of its misery and it'll be food for the birds then. We don't just waste it. So I just went over and wrung its neck for him quick.
Can you imagine if they incorporated that into the next Toy Story movie? Of like the look of horror on this American doll's face, like goes back and tells Woody and Buzz like, don't go hawking with her.
But then like, so I just thought that was normal, and then like the older I got, people were like, you're a weird chaotic childhood. And I was like, that was normal for me. I don't know.
It's like people forget like all this like I don't know, like I did not grow up on the farm or anything like that, so all like hunting is foreign. It's just foreign to me.
Sure.
Like I'm completely fine with it. I just
It's like
didn't grow up with it. It's like I just assumed that like meat just shows up in the packages in the store.
In the store, yeah.
It just happens. And so it's like,
It's
no,
like-
that doesn't just happen.
It's like a culture thing. I was talking to some
Yes.
friends at the hospital up north, like during hunting season, and I said, "Oh, do your kids go hunting?" And she said, "No, we don't. We're not really from around here. We didn't, they didn't grow up hunting." And I was like, "Oh, I suppose if you didn't grow up hunting, like, how would you really get into it?" Like,
It's hard to get into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a very you're raised and it's a cultural thing, but
Yeah.
like it's like sacred in Braeden's family.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that whole week is
Yeah.
like
That's Holy Week.
holy
Holy
week.
wait. Have you been hunting since you were just like ever since you can remember?
I was pretty. I mean, I would go and sit with my dad. When I was quite little, and then I remember, shooting my first deer with him when I was, I don't know, 13 or 12 or
Yeah.
something.
Wow.
Probably. And I mean, we hunt at my grandpa's land in Spooner, and that's just, I don't know, that's the big get together for the year. My grandpa will,
Really?
every time I see him, any time of year, we talk about hunting.
Yeah.
He's got his
Been working on the
schemes for
stands.
what does he need to
He's been
grow in
clearing
the field.
shooting ranges,
Yeah.
Wow.
so that you've got a nice clear path for a good shot based on where the deer
He
showed
grows
up
like
previously.
molasses, and he'll try and figure out what seed he needs to get for attracting the deer. He
Wow.
plants crops just for the deer. Like, he's
That
old,
is
and that's like how
intense.
he
It's
likes to spend his
dedication.
time. But
That is really, yeah.
It's
That
kind
is
of funny.
dedication.
I had to
Yeah.
work last year for was it hunting opener this year? Oh, hunting opener I worked this year.
Yeah.
And his grandma was just like, "You work hunting opener?" Like, I'm
I just can't
appalled.
believe it.
Yeah, I'm just floored. And I was like, I don't know, people have to work. Oh, it's funny.
Did she just walk like the wedding's off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't have
Yep.
this.
Oh, my grandpa though loves that you hunt. He's
Yeah.
quite impressed. Yeah.
That's great. So do you like bow hunting or gun hunting more?
I've never been bow hunting.
You've never been?
I used to shoot my bow a lot when we were younger, but I have never been bow hunting.
I've bow hunted a little bit, but never successfully. I missed a deer once, but that was about it.
Oh.
Not that good with the bow.
I
Yeah.
think the problem was typically, at least when I was in high school and stuff, sports were like on weekends and stuff when
Oh,
you
yeah.
wouldn't have time to hunt. 'Cause
Yeah.
You wouldn't have much time after school, especially that time of year, because the sun goes down, and if you were in sports, you just didn't have time. So then when I was older, I was then in nursing school, and you don't have time for anything then either.
It's kind of
Oh,
nice 'cause
right.
So, like-
yeah.
the weather's
Yeah,
nicer
school
though.
do it.
Like
Yeah,
in the
that's
fall,
true.
Like earlier fall.
That's
so
true.
Nice. I have like devotionals, like Christian devotionals that are just like a look at life from a deer stand, and like I have like 3 or 4 books. that are
Really?
just like devotions that deer hunters send in, and
I never trusted a picture.
I
yeah.
hate that hill. And yeah.
So do you take them out to the deer stand with you? Like
I
you
haven't.
read them while you're.
I've taken like a couple books once in a while, but I'd rather just like watch. So I have like this like hand muff thing you stick your hands in to keep them warm.
Oh yeah.
Like when my fingers get cold, so I have a rosary. It has a zipper pocket that I keep a rosary
Yeah.
in.
That's
So
great.
like every morning, especially like during gun season, I need to like pray a rosary first thing. Sometimes it doesn't.
We
get
don't
done
see a
first thing.
deer until we say a rosary. So,
It's
like, his,
actually like
his
So-
shack can fit both of us, which is nice.
yeah.
But
Oh.
It actually seems like it's kind of weird.
I haven't
that
seen a deer until
I'm like,
we've prayed our rosary.
I would be
Wow.
like thinking like, okay, I need to pray the rosary so that deer will come.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like going on in my mind, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. It
And
kind of works.
But it happens. So.
And then
Yeah.
I'm impatient because like I'm faster than you are praying the rosary. So I'm like,
I
okay,
take-
I'm done. Are you? And you're like, no, I'm on the second decade. And I'm like,
I
shoot, we got like
long.
15 more minutes before we're gonna see anything.
Dozing off while I'm
Oh
praying.
my gosh.
Oh yeah. I would imagine it's peaceful out there. Though.
Yeah.
I would have a hard time not dozing off out there.
I
It
doze
was-
off
I
all
would
the
think.
time, but it's so peaceful.
It was pretty warm this year when we were hunting. Not a hunting opener.
Well, the
I'm
days
sorry
that you
for
missed,
you.
it was
The
cold.
days I missed, it was awful cold. But the days I was there, it was very nice.
Yeah.
So did you call a coworker? Like, did you call in sick today so I can?
No, I
there.
worked hunting opener, and then it was kind of nice because I chunked my days right there. So then I was off the rest of that week, and then it was
Oh.
Thanksgiving. So I worked like Friday, Saturday, Sunday of opener, and then Monday through.
Well, your other
Thanks.
coworker had opener off because she wanted to go hunting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So she went hunting, and then I worked, and yeah.
So what? How are you finding the? So you like with the planning the wedding and everything. So like the whole engage process, the whole
Yeah.
marriage prep process through the church and going through the retreats and
Yeah.
the courses and the
Yeah.
all that. So how's that going?
I think it's good. I think I had reached a point right before I think we started dating where I was really myself interested in learning more about our faith. And you know what I mean? Like I feel, I don't want to say like in college you drift away or anything. I wouldn't say that I drifted away, but I think I just had like this newfound interest in like more of like the foundations of our faith and why do we believe what we believe, and kind of like the catechism. Like so we're doing catechism in a year now because we've both done Bible in a year.
Yeah.
And I think I was just at a point where I was really interested in that, and I think you were kind of at that point too. And then when we started dating, we started listening to like podcasts together, like As Christopher West. I'd always listen to Leah Darrow's Do Something Beautiful, Catholic Stuff You Should Know, Pints of Aquinas, like all the Catholic podcasts that you can listen to.
There's another podcast out there. It's called Unscripted, and you're on it right now.
Oh! That one too. More
Yeah.
recently, we've started listening.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't listened to it quite yet. I didn't know it was a podcast till before this, but
that's okay.
I will listen
That's
to
kind
it
of a new
shortly.
thing. It's kind of like we're building a plane while we're flying. So.
But
Do you feel like you plateaued like in college, or
I think
like,
I just
and then
didn't
it's
have
like
time.
now it's like
I think I didn't have time.
Yeah.
Like I think in nursing school I was just so consumed with like school that, and like I was in a different relationship at the time that definitely wasn't like helping me get towards heaven or be interested in my faith. And so I think once I was out of that relationship, out of nursing school, I like had this space all of a sudden to be really interested in. I saw what, like, I had like this divine vision of what my life would be like if I didn't have God in it, like if I like continued in that relationship or like, and it was horrifying. I remember I called Braeden because we were dear friends for years.
Friends for a long time,
We had met at camp.
Yeah.
What summer? 2019? 2018?
Oh,
The
wow.
summer my parents bought.
Yeah.
We had met at camp and we were just dear friends that whole summer, and he went off to net and we stayed in touch, and he'd call me sometimes. We were super busy on net, and just like a really genuine, beautiful friendship. I was with someone else and you ended up with someone else, and he was like one of the first people I'd text if I needed prayers because I knew he would pray for me. And I remember calling you and I was like standing outside and I was crying and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I'm not where I'm supposed to be right now, and I like just broke up with this guy and I'm going up to camp for the summer, and like you had already said you'd come and help get camp ready for the summer like months before that, so you left your job early to come up to camp and help with stuff. And
That's okay, I hated that job. It was awful.
What job? Can you say what job it was, or do you have to keep that under wraps?
I worked at like a metal fabrication factory place, so it was like moving 2,000 sheets of metal like into a press machine, and it was I hated it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some of the guys were fun to work with, but it was just like loud. You can't really talk much.
Yeah.
My hands would be so sore, like I couldn't do anything.
You cut yourself? Would it be sharp?
We had to like
you'd
go through a pair of gloves like a couple a night because you cut through the gloves, but I never really like hurt myself, I don't think.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ruined a lot of clothes though.
I bet.
I had to shower with Dawn dish soap because of all the oil that they put on the metal. and
Really?
stuff. Yeah.
That's good for you.
Yeah, I didn't. I was happy.
It
to
cleans
leave
the
job.
duckies.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Safe.
It's safe for the
They
ducks.
use it on baby ducklings and oil spills. They use it
Yeah.
on myself.
Right.
Oh gosh.
Right. They should really do a commercial with that a little bit more. They should really dig in with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Reach
But-
the working class.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know, I think we both just had the space then that summer to explore more. Like, I don't know, you weren't going to school anymore because you had gone for a semester.
Yeah.
And you were done with that job, so we were both just working in ministry that summer, and I had known I had wanted to move up to camp for a long time. I just didn't think I could actually do it, and so then moved up to camp and just had like the time and space and like desire to learn more about my faith. And then together, I mean, being with someone who
actually cared.
well, yeah, so on our first date, like he asked my dad to take me on if he could take me on a date. He brought me to adoration and mass and then out for pizza and for a hike, and I was like, this is literally like, and I think I told you that years before, like what my ideal date, my first date would be.
Oh, nice.
And he asked my dad for permission and like did all the good things. So like being with someone who is actively like interested in the same thing, like the most important thing in our lives, was really helpful, I think, and just and I mean, it's like something we talk about all the time. Like it's not just, Sunday we talk about God and we go to mass together. Like every day, like we're listening to, more truths about our faith or exploring it more. The books we read, like we both have a book issue. like we have so many books that we need to read that are all good and
I
beautiful.
read
Like
slow. That's
I
the
just
problem.
yeah, he just finished Saint Therese's autobiography. I just finished The Anti-Mary Exposed
Oh yeah.
by Tan book. So like I don't know, I think just having the space and then someone who like actively wants to talk about that with you and really cares about it deeply, and like that's like the foundation of like us. I mean,
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I feel like too, at least for me, that was like the first relationship that like I took more seriously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like previously it was like I don't know. There's like just modern like it's
Yeah.
just indecisiveness with everyone.
Right.
Like, that's what we're trained to be.
Yeah.
Like keep your options open. So it was like
don't commit to anything.
oh, you're not committed.
Right.
We like whatever. People like each other, but they don't commit. They don't.
Yeah.
We don't want to like. What is it? Like we don't want to like put a name on it or like.
Oh,
Yeah, we
label
don't
it.
label it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
labels.
I don't want to label the relationship.
Yeah. Which.
So then I always have like a get out of jail for like
Yeah,
I can always
basically.
get out.
You want
There's
an
no
out.
consequence. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everyone wants an out without any repercussions.
Yep.
Yeah. And then so like when we got together, it was like okay, no, we're taking this seriously. Even before though, like when we were
Right. We
friends. I mean, we talked about
Oh my
dating
gosh.
for like a couple months before we actually
Oh
started
yeah.
dating.
We were discerning because we were
Yeah.
such good friends, and we were like,
And-
well, we don't want to
yeah.
ruin anything
Right.
that we have. But so let's pray about it. And we discerned it for a couple months, and then
And then
I don't know. We were like, well, this is.
But
And
that's-
whenever people would ask me what kind of guy I like could see myself with, I'd be like, oh, someone like Braeden. And then you say that a couple too many times, and you're like, duh.
wait, yeah, no him. So, and I mean this in the most like positive, complimentary way
Mhm.
when I say this. But you guys are weird. I mean, like,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, and what I mean is like, it is not. Yeah, but it's a good thing because it's not what you usually see
Yeah.
in the culture. It's
Yeah.
like you don't see people friends first. You see people like wanting an out, people not wanting to label things.
Right.
That is the norm.
Right.
And so weird is a good thing,
Right.
Um,
And I think what I really appreciated, well, first of all, you're a gentleman, like so chivalrous. But one of the first things I loved about you is that, like, and I don't think this is always common, it's like you cared about me being happy. Like one of the other guys I had been with, you were like, oh, he buys her flowers. Like, I'm so glad she has that. You were really genuinely happy for me in this other relationship and like super supportive. You never had ulterior motives,
Yeah.
like,
Which-
I'm going to try and break them up so I can be with her or something like
and
that.
That went both ways too.
Yeah.
Because like I was with someone
Yeah,
different, and then you were like just the timing was like
yeah.
each time one of us was single, the other one wasn't for a
Right.
while. I think.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was just like, oh, I'm genuinely happy for you. I have no
Yeah,
qualms with
it was
this. Like,
honestly never even like for me for a long time. It was never like a thought of like, oh, I could like be with Kayla because
No.
either she was in a relationship or I was, and I was like happy for her when
Right.
there was good things about her relationship. She was happy for me,
right.
Yeah.
and then like eventually it was
good
like, huh,
friends,
I wonder
like-
why she was the only like one of the only people besides my mom that I would call when I was with Net Ministries and had like zero free time. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
It's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
all right in front of
There's
you.
some value to this, like just the
Right.
friendship that we had,
Right.
Yeah.
the connection that we had.
Right. But you're right. It is such a different thing. Like, that's not how it works these days, really. It's more like, oh, this person's pretty or cute, and I'm going to try and,
Right.
like, pursue, and then we'll see if we kind of fit together in that way. But, like, we already had that foundation where, like, we obviously both cared about ministry because
Yeah.
that was what we had dedicated our lives to that summer. And I knew you were Catholic, and you knew I was Catholic, so we already had that common foundation. Otherwise, honestly, like some of the other relationships I'd been in, I was like, didn't have that didn't work. So obviously, that's something that is an absolute must, like, so important.
So you kind of had to practice it being weird in
Yeah.
a way. I mean, and I almost mean that all positive. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, some people are like, oh, I can never. Like I see people like look really holy and they're doing this and they're doing this. Like, gosh, I'm never gonna get to that. But I'm like,
Yeah.
they didn't just like arrive at that. They
No.
worked to get to that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I forget that too. Like
Yeah.
you gotta work to get to that. Like, and you both went through relationships. Where like
Yep.
this just isn't it.
Oh gosh,
What's
yeah.
it? What's it? How do we get to that point? What is it?
Right, and I
Yeah.
think it's so hard because nowadays I think a lot of people settle because they think that they can't get to that. Like I remember being like 22 and I was kind of at that point where I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to settle and I'm gonna have to compromise on something. When
Yeah.
like actually, you really don't have to.
No.
You absolutely do not have to.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of my like, I don't know, journey like out of high school was, I mean, I don't know, I didn't have tons of super close friends in high school, especially not very many like faithful friends for sure. And then right after high school, I started working at camp, and I was like, oh wow, there's like actually
people
faithful
like me.
people.
Yeah.
They're kind, like they're fun to be around. They're not just like weird either, like weird in a bad way.
Right,
in a good way.
Bad weird.
But like, I was like, oh wow, this is like good, true friendship. And then I was with Net Ministries, and I was with like the same 10 people for like a long time.
Yeah.
Even just like the training portion too, though, was like, oh wow, I'm just surrounded by holy people who actually care about their faith, who care about
and they're out
other
there.
people having a faith.
They are.
They are out
exist,
there.
and I don't have to just like be uncomfortable around like some of the friends that I've had for forever.
Right.
Because we don't share the same values or like,
Right. And I mean, if there is, I think even in friendships, like, I think people feel like they need to compromise because they're not going to find something better. Like, you always have to give a little or whatever. But there are certain things that you should definitely hold as, like, this is a standard that it's okay for me to have. And I truly think that people tend to rise to the occasion. Like, if you give them a standard that you have, they will absolutely meet it if they're the right person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I think people compromise on other things because they're like, oh, faith, that'll never be something we agree on. But at least he's like tall and handsome and likes pizza.
Right.
But there's like, well, you could compromise on the pizza. Like there's.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
There's just. I just think, but I remember being that age where I was young and I was like, well, yeah, I'm never gonna find that. Like I'd go to Steubenville conferences and stuff and I'd be like, oh, that's so awesome. Look at all these young men here who are, you know, faithful, and then like they're all in seminary. You're like, well, never mind.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't think, my mom has always said this. She says being a young adult is like one of the hardest times of life, and I couldn't agree more because you're trying to figure out so many things just for yourself, but then also trying to find someone else that, I mean, if that's what you're called to, if that's what, you know, your vocation is, but also trying to find someone else who, you know what I mean, has the same values you do, but then, you know, like, and then you're never gonna have it all figured out before you get together. Like, we're like, oh, I gotta figure it out and get it all, you know, nice and pretty in a box with a bow on it before I can jump into a. Relationships are messy. That's just how they are. You're never gonna be like ready for one.
No,
no matter how much you think you know together, either. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah. I think we've talked about that a couple of times, even with marriage, where, you know, people who move in together before they're married and stuff, like, because they want to like practice being married. You can't practice being married until you're married. Like, that's the point. Like, you can't be good at marriage until you're married. I can't remember why we were talking about that, but it was something like, well, how are we going to figure that out? And it's like, well, we can't because we're not in that season of life yet.
Right.
But you're not supposed to, because you're supposed to figure it out once you're in that season. Like, we have what we need for this season right now, and that's okay.
Yeah, I heard something cool on different podcasts. I can't remember, but like the guys were talking about like being married young and like they didn't have stuff figured out, and these guys are like famous. It was the Daily Wire, so they're like those guys that are like very successful at this point. And when they started, they had like nothing.
Right.
And like they were saying, like, I'm glad I was not established or not like didn't have my whole life figured out before I got married, because I became the person I am now with my wife. And if I were my own established person, like there'd have been more clash. If it's two fully established people coming together and you know, have their lives, you know, figured out or whatever, there's gonna be more to clash or hard, like it's harder to
if you're
mesh
set
that.
in your ways and like the way you think everything should be done.
But if you build it together, that's a lot of what they were saying, and I thought, oh, that's good to know, because I really don't feel like I have myself figured out.
Right. It is easier to join two moldable pieces of clay than two rocks.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's a good visual.
So, and that's the thing. I mean, and I've said before too, like I could have gone through every retreat, I could have read every book, I could have talked to every marriage counselor, every priest, I could have talked to everyone, and I still wouldn't have been ready for marriage, like fully ready. And you know, we're still not though, because there's things that will unfold in our marriage that we haven't gone through yet.
Like, and you can't foresee any of it
we could talk
like,
now and say, if this happens, then we'll do this. If this happens, we'll handle it this way. But we've done that before, and then that happens, and we've handled it completely different. Yeah. Because we are in a different place in our faith life and our walk. And
you can play the 1/8 game all day. And
We could, and there's nothing wrong with talking about it. But I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be married to that way of doing things.
Right.
Until we do that together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, where I'm at right now, I'm just like, I'm so excited to be married because, well, for a lot of reasons. I don't know. It's something I've always felt like I was supposed to be, as like a wife and a mom. And so I think when it's like less than 3 months away, it's like kind of tangible now almost.
Yeah, this is happening.
Where it feels like before it's like, I think you see it on movies and you hear about it like your whole life growing up, even as like a little girl, you're like, oh, wedding, and it's so fun, and then, you start planning it, and the hard part with wedding planning is like, you plan it all and mess up a bunch of times and you never do it again. So it's like, I'm like, I can't even practice and be like, oh, next time I'll do it better. It's like, well, I screwed that up. Like, that was my one time to do it.
That was like the pastor that married my sister and her husband. He told her, he said, so you've planned the day and everything. If the roof falls in, that's how we planned it. He said, whatever happens, that is how we planned it. It's supposed to happen that way.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think too, it's like, that's the thing, is that sometimes people do all this work to get married. They plan the flower, all this stuff to get the wedding day. The wedding day happens, and it's like, sometimes the couples are like, so now what? Like, you spent all this time and energy for this. But they forget that you get married every day.
Yeah.
You are married every day. You get remarried. You wake up, you're married again.
Yeah.
You're married again, and you choose that person again every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, you've been married a while. It's maybe kind of like, nice. That's not me talking. That's my wife talking. Just for the record. No, but like every day you're like, I have this person still.
Yeah.
We're still going. We're still married. We're still working at it.
Yeah.
We're still figuring things out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And she'll tell you that too. Like, we're still figuring things out.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're never done.
No.
We're not supposed to be.
And that's the thing,
done.
that people get to the wedding like, we did it. We got married. We're done. And now we just coast through life. They're like, no, that's not. Now the work begins.
I think it's been interesting. I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
Oh, just like, one thing I've heard is like, being ready for marriage isn't about like the day after the wedding or the month after the wedding. That's still good. You're still in the easy part. It's like the day 10 years down the road when you wake up and you don't necessarily have good feelings about each other. It's like those days, not just the the wedding isn't the end. That's the
no.
It's the beginning.
And it's just like we do with confirmation. It's like, it's not the end. It's the beginning.
Funny that you're saying that, because we have to lead a confirmation retreat on Sunday, and that's my talk. Is like, this is the first step for you guys. Like, this isn't the end. Yes, your parents have been, having you, go to this stuff for your whole life, and now you're getting confirmed, and you're saying, yes, this is the first step. Like, your goal now is to always be taking the next step in your faith.
Your parents might even think it's the end too.
Right.
Like,
yes.
So many of them.
But it's not.
No, and it's
plot twist. It's the beginning.
It's the beginning. Yeah. And spoiler alert, it never ends.
Right.
So I mean, I've got more blunt with people in my confirmation talks. I tell them, if statistics hold true, I am looking at a room full of ghosts. Like, we'll never see it again.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen. But that's where we're at.
Right.
And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that, do this and you just coast through your life. Like, no, this is a beginning. If you don't see it as a beginning, then you've missed something.
Yeah.
And we don't want you to miss it.
Yeah.
And we want you to be confirmed.
Yeah.
But we want you to get it.
Right.
And we want you to see that this is not just, let's check this off the list. But I think that also comes with weddings as well, is that you see couples who are checking the wedding day off the list, and then they move on, and they don't realize the graces, they don't realize the sacrament that it is. It's just like, check it off the list and move on and off to the honeymoon. And so we live, and I've said this over and over and over again, we live in a very checkbox mindset with the sacraments, going to mass, everything.
Oh, did it,
done.
Yeah.
Got my gold star in heaven, and off we go.
See, I think we've I've had like friends that have been getting married and stuff lately, like not in the church.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of interesting to see just how it's such a different like mentality going into it, where it's like they've already been living together, or they've already, you know what I mean, like they already have a house together. I don't want to say like the ceremony's a joke, but like sometimes when people are ordained online, it's not as not as sacred as like it would be for the person that's supposed to be like leading.
Like the minister.
Yeah, the minister.
Making it less serious.
Yeah.
Or having Elvis impersonator Mary.
Gosh,
something
really?
like that.
Yeah, no. Wow, that's an image.
I guess we're not doing that.
Right.
Well, throw that out the window. You got us, Chris.
Spoil.
But I think for us, it's been really cool planning because I didn't realize how much freedom you had over the mass until we were doing a lot of the planning.
Right.
And that's been so cool because like we've been really intentional with so many of the parts of our wedding and reception. Like we're doing a foot washing instead of like a garter toss because that just is distasteful in my opinion. I would never. I would be mortified. And we think a foot washing would be so cool. And
the meaning behind it.
The symbolism behind it, yeah. And so his sister kindly wrote up like this thing she's gonna read while he's washing my feet and I'm washing his, and kind of how Jesus washed the disciples' feet.
Right.
Because that's what we're doing. Like that's what marriage is. It's a dying to self, and and so a lot of our wedding planning has been. Braeden's always really intentional, and you may be better at that. But like so much of what we've been doing has been so intentional, like from the song and where it's like what song we picked and where it's placed in the mass. We're like, oh, this is good because this is when the gifts are being brought up, and we're saying, "Give me Jesus." Like those are some of the lyrics. Like everything's been so intentionally planned for those that are Catholic, but also to be a witness to those that aren't.
Yeah.
That this is really a sacrament, and it's not just a celebration of. Us getting married.
Look at me.
Yeah, woohoo.
Right.
Big party.
Just,
it's like truly the biggest, like one of the biggest commitments of our lives. I mean, kind of is.
Yeah. It's not just a like, hey, everybody who's related to us and all our friends, come look. It's hey, come participate. And come like
be
receive
a part of
something.
it with us.
Right.
Because I don't know. I want people to, if they can get some little, bit of meaning out of any of it.
Yeah.
The songs that we choose, the prayers that we choose, the readings that we choose.
Yeah.
I had no idea we could choose like all the prayers that the priest does, and like
me either.
There's options. It's really cool.
That was really fun.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, whatever, just pick one of them. But like,
oh my gosh, we sat with them and like we wrote down. We'd like be like, no, don't really like that one. Really like this one. Let's think about it for a little while. And then we like revisited it and looked at it and wrote again the date on it to see if we still like that one more or not. And it was really
probably,
cool.
Yeah, it was, and it's probably like not as consequential as I might think, but. If God is going to reach people, He's going to reach people, regardless of what I choose, what we choose, or what I do about it.
Right.
And it's not our job to make, to be a perfect example or a perfect witness right away either, but do what we can at least.
Right.
I think people forget, there's a meaning behind everything at the Mass. There's a reason for everything.
Absolutely.
Same with a wedding, of course the Mass and the wedding, but there's a reason why we're doing all of this.
Right.
It's not just because.
Right.
It's because of something.
Yeah. There's this really cool. So we went to the Seek conference this year, which is the first time any of us had ever been there as a CrossFit team. None of us had ever been there, and we went to try and recruit some staff for summer. And we got a lot of interest. That was very cool.
That's great.
Yeah, and we've hired quite a few that actually have applied from Seek, so that's really cool. But there's lots of art. Like, it's the worst place to go if you have like a tiny bit of money and you are Catholic, and like because there's just Catholic stuff everywhere, and you're like, I want to support a small business, I want to support this one. So just beware if you ever go. But there was this one shop that had some really beautiful art at it, and I have like an addiction to religious art, which is horrible too. It's like my book addiction.
Yeah, we're both like kleptos.
We're bad. I know. We were like, where are we gonna put all this once we're in the same house? Like, my walls are covered, your walls are covered. They're gonna be covered. We're like, we'll be seasonal. We'll just have to switch them out with each season. But we found this one that it was a bride with blonde hair and then a groom with brunette hair, and each one they're holding hands in the middle, and then there's a crucifix right in front of them with Jesus, and each one of their hands is nailed to the cross with his. So they're holding hands, and then the bride's hand and the groom's hand are nailed to the cross with Jesus. And we were like, oh my gosh, what an accurate representation of like what we're about to enter into. Like, it's beautiful. We framed it. We're gonna have it at our wedding, like sitting out.
That's
but
not the picture that the world wants to look at.
No,
because we were talking about this the other day, where it's kind of dark. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I wish it was like lighter, happier colors. And then I thought about it more, and we were talking, and we were like, but that's what the world wants you to see. It's like, oh, it's just a happy wedding. It's great. They're all together now. But like, it's a sacrifice.
Right.
And it is suffering, and that's not bad.
But in death comes life as
exactly,
well.
yeah. But it would, when we were looking at it later and talking about it, we're like, well, how appropriate that it actually is more of, like, there is some dark, like, kind of a mood to it because of the colors that the artist used and stuff. Because it is a dying, but it's not a bad dying. I think people associate that kind of like death or sacrifice or giving up independence as a bad.
Oh yeah, I'm losing my freedom.
Right. Whereas like Father Mike says, like when you have limits, you're able to love better.
Yeah, like that's with the indecisive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you choose and decide on something, you are more free to be like
to love fully.
Yeah, you
fully.
can actually love something versus just kind of being
split like, so many different ways if you choose one thing. Yeah.
Right. Because I think people feel like, I think the culture is telling us that the being undecided is freedom.
Oh yeah.
But
to
me, undecided is it's one more thing that's left undone.
Right.
So it's almost like I have these tasks.
Right.
And if I have all these undone tasks, then my head is everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's not that I'm free, it's that I have something that's left undone that I am tied to this
You're
now.
You're chained to how many more things?
Yeah, I'm chained to this one now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's definitely not what the culture says at all.
No, and it tells you, and they twist it. And,
yep.
Yeah. Even with who you are, don't commit to.
Yeah.
Even like what you are, who you are.
Yeah. Right. Be open to anything. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What am I today?
Yeah. Gosh. Jeez.
Yeah.
And, big question.
And what am I? Yeah, what is today gonna bring? And I don't know. And I've been trying to be way more intentional about praying in the morning before I start work. And like, everything with family and everything like that. But also, Lord, let me be something for you today.
Right.
I'm not sure what it is yet.
Well, it's like how you were saying, you wake up every morning with your wife and you're like, all right, well, we're married. Like, we are married again today. This is. Yeah. But it's also that with Jesus, like the marriage. Our marriage in this life is supposed to be, as Christopher West says, like it's a sign pointing us towards Disneyland. And like once we're in heaven, in the heavenly wedding, like you don't need a sign pointing you to heaven once you're already in heaven. But here on earth, like that's the sign. But also every morning, like you're saying, praying, we are like supposed to be married. He's the bridegroom. Like we are the church, and we're the bride, and he's the bridegroom. So every morning that you are with your wife, every morning we should be with the Lord too.
Yeah.
Renewing that vow.
Right. Otherwise, we're just. I said this when I talked to your mom and your sister. That it's just we treat God like he's the genie from Aladdin.
Yeah.
And like pull him in when we need him, and then kind of shoo him away.
Yeah.
When he's calling us something a little bit difficult to pull us out of our comfort zone. But, because we don't want things to be hard. We don't want things to be difficult. We want to be comfortable.
Right.
And
I will say engagement, like it's been very joyful, but there's a lot of stuff that like I didn't anticipate, like discomforts that I didn't anticipate.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
can you think of one that you could share?
Well, I feel like given both of us are very blessed that both of our families are very Catholic, and like and that's a huge blessing in itself, because they all completely understand where we're coming from with how we want our wedding to be and how important of it's a sacrament. It's a really big deal. But even just like family growing pains is like something that I didn't anticipate. How like we went to 6 Christmases this year between our families, and it's great and it's beautiful and it's so fun to see family, but we're like, it wasn't something that I anticipated causing me stress. Where I'm like, but I don't want this family to feel like we were there longer, and I don't want this family, like there's growing pains when it comes to uniting 2 families together. It's not a bad thing, but it's this, you know what I mean? It's
a process of figuring it out. Like,
yeah.
I'm glad that we have been able to like start kind of figuring that out. Because I don't know, I feel like there might be things that some people go into marriage and they're just not, I don't know, not expecting to have to deal with, or they haven't dealt with it or talked about it even. Like, I think there are things that I'm like glad that some of these growing pains are happening, because it's kind of one thing that we're at least started on the journey of like figuring it out, because it's going to be a process, no matter like how wonderful both of our families are. Like that's just part of the process. I think it's like, I don't know, it's weird to not, when you're single, you're with your family when there's stuff going on.
It's like, oh, it's Thanksgiving, we're dating, but like have fun with your family and I'm gonna go to mine. And now we're like, oh, You know, like, it'd be weird if we were married and it was like, all right, see ya, I'm going to go to be with my parents.
Yeah.
And you're going to go with yours. That's not exactly how it's done.
No.
But, and it's not a bad thing. Like I'm saying, we both have very understanding families, which we're very blessed with.
That's good.
Because it could be, like, malicious and, you know,
like
guilt trips. And, oh my gosh, it could be horrible. So we're both very blessed. But I think that was something I hadn't really anticipated necessarily, you know, having to deal with. Or like, even, like, changing car insurance and stuff. Like, not that it's bad, but it's like one more thing that I'm like, oh shoot, like, and then me changing my name. Holy moly, I'm a nurse. I have to change it on 4 million different things.
Oh,
where it's just like, it's not a bad thing, but it's stuff you don't think about until you're like, oh dear, I have to change everything.
And then you have to get used to writing that last name. I mean, have you practiced yet?
No, not really. I should. It's okay. I have another surgery coming up. I'll just spend my whole couple weeks off writing my.
Like a little, like a young girl's like journal.
Yes, the girls. Yeah, right there. Yeah, that'll be me. No, I just.
Yeah. Do I want the loopies in the H?
But yeah, I just think that I think something I wish I had heard, because I don't feel like you hear much about being engaged as a Catholic couple.
No.
We've talked about this, where it's like the church like really cares about you when you're like discerning, and they're like, okay, you've got to be married. We're really excited for you to get married. We're gonna do some marriage prep, and then I feel like the whole process of being engaged, and then even like once you're newly married, is kind of like forgotten about. Like once you're married, you're kind of like, okay, cool, you're married.
Yeah.
And there's like actually a lot more to be done.
Oh yeah.
And even like in engagement, I don't feel like I ever had heard a Catholic couple talk about really what their engagement was like until we were like at our marriage retreat. And I'm like, well, now we're like 3 months away from getting married, and it would have been nice to hear this like 6 months ago when we got engaged, you know? Like, it's super joyful, it's super fun, there's a lot of planning to do, and I think it's hard to not, something I struggle with just in life in general, but also in this, because I'm so excited to enter into this sacrament, is like not anticipating. I feel like just being in the moment and appreciating the season, because it's really short. It's 9 months, but it's such a short amount of time. When you're in it, it's like, well, holy moly, we've got 200 more days until we're married and get to live under the same roof and, you know, share the same bathroom. But, you know, I don't know if that'll be fun or not, whatever.
I don't know.
It's not. No, it's fine. But I'm telling you, you have that much counter space. Like, that's it.
I'll rein it in. I've got drawers. We'll be fine.
How many hair products are there?
I don't have, Chris, I literally have shampoo, lotion, chapstick, toothpaste. That's like, I'm super simple. I know, I'm not much of a girl.
No, Do
I have much more than that?
I don't.
Deodorant. Oh, I'm sorry, deodorant.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, we were going to say something. But I think that it's something we've talked about after our marriage retreat, how we would love to someday be able to help at marriage retreats and stuff, because I think engagement is a hard time and it's a beautiful time, but it's also a super confusing time, and it would be nice to have someone to walk with you in that. And like I get marriage prep is probably supposed to do that too. We have a meeting with Deacon Tim, which has been great, but it'd be so cool to have like an adoptive couple, like a couple that like adopt an engaged couple or something like that to help them in
like
their walk.
And that's kind of what Focus is. Focus for married couples is that walk with the couple.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask you too. Like for you guys, like if you could like snap your fingers and like make it a perfect world, what would you say that you as an engaged couple and then a married couple, newly married couple, needs from the church? Like how could the church, like if we could snap our fingers and make it perfect, what could the church do for you?
You're laughing. Okay, you know something already?
No, I don't.
The perfect world thing.
Yeah.
Like if we could just do that.
Right. Oh gosh. I mean.
Because I do feel like a lot of times, you know, with especially like when people graduate from high school, especially within college as well, they're kind of dumped into quote unquote the general population. Like you're just and if you're lucky to have like a young adult ministry in your parish or in your deanery or your community, that's awesome. But a lot around the country don't have that.
Right.
And so when you jumped up to the general population, people just kind of like, well, I'm going to mass because that's what the obligation is, and then there's really nothing else for me. And even if we do like a Bible study for like the general adults in the church, that's great.
Yeah.
But is that going to really speak to this newly married couple or this engaged couple? Is it really hitting them where they're at?
Yeah.
You know, we spend so much time in ministry meeting people where we're at, where they're at.
Yeah.
Are we doing that with our adults as well? Are we just lumping all adults together? Like, you're an adult, here's one thing for you.
Yeah. Well, so we went on our marriage retreat at the end of January, and then Braeden's parents just went on a marriage retreat in St. Louis a couple weeks ago, because we were talking to them that night, because I didn't know that they were going on it till we finished our marriage retreat and went over there for dinner. And they were like, yeah, because we're at the point where, like, Graceland's their last kiddo in the house, and she's in 6th grade, and they're like, we finally had time to pull our heads up from, like, you know, the grinding stone and be like, hi, how are you? It's been years. We're, you know, and I think, I don't know what the solution is for it, but I even think that the social that we went to that night was really cool, because it did pull in, you know, engaged couples and married couples of all different ages and stuff, all into the same place to talk about stuff that I'm sure is applicable when you're engaged or when you've been married for 20 years.
Yep.
I thought they did a really nice job of that, and it was really cool just to have that community of people that are very similar. Like, I have friends that are seriously dating or whatever, but they're not Catholic, and so it's kind of hard because there's such a different view of what that means, you know?
Yeah.
Like, for us, I'm like, well, we're preparing for, like, this biggest sacrament of our life. Like, that's a huge thing, and for them, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get married, but, like, we're in the same house, doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
whatever.
What's the point of getting engaged now? I don't know.
Right.
It keeps getting pushed off if it's not a sacrament,
right.
or if you're not waiting.
If
for
nothing's
something.
changing, Like for us, a lot of stuff will change.
Yeah.
But for some people who've been, you know, living together and stuff, not that much changes.
Yeah. If the day after your wedding is just the same as the day before,
right?
Then what's?
Is
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Really experiencing like this sacrament?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. I don't know the best answer. I know that I want to help with it somehow, because I think that
I think that's the thing, is that we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. Right.
I think in a way, if you could force people to have difficult conversations as engaged couples or as newly married couples, like just earlier. Force them to have difficult conversations about faith, about decisions that will be made, or tough things that might come up.
Right.
Just because I think people get uncomfortable by like serious topics if they know there's a disagreement there. They don't want to approach it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like even like having two different faith, even like both Christians of different denominations, there could be a little discomfort there, and like not necessarily wanting to talk about tough stuff. Or,
right. I
don't know, even like learning the what the church really teaches as about like sex and like,
what's okay, what's
rules.
not okay, like NFP,
NFP would, I mean, I feel like we've learned a lot, and I find it super interesting.
We did a lot of searching on our, so to go back for just a second, how you were saying that a lot of people don't have difficult conversations, like we had a lot of difficult conversations before we were even dating, like just as friends, talking about things, and then even once we were dating, I mean very early on, I knew that I would marry you, and so we started having very serious conversations.
Well, and like when you were talking about like podcasts and stuff, I had never listened to podcasts before we were like together, like never.
And then I was like, I'm so tired of the radio, this is all I listen to. So then I think Braeden had to start listening to podcasts.
But we were searching for stuff that would teach us about marriage, about relationships, about like
actively seeking it out, because we were like, we just had such an interest in it. I mean, when it's something like, it's gonna be one of the biggest things that we ever do.
It is.
It is something that needs to be like handled with care and like dug into, and you know what I mean? Like actually.
Like on the one hand, there's no way to know what you're getting into or be prepared.
Right.
But there are things that you can do to understand it a little
better,
or to just prepare yourself in the ways that you can.
Right.
Like I don't know. There's ways, like it's kind of terrifying. Like, am I ready to be a husband? I don't know. Am I like ready to, I don't know, devote myself to this vocation for the rest of my life? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be a good husband, but I'm going to hopefully try to do everything I can to like.
And I think that's exactly what a good husband is, and a wife too, is the one who's the ones who are trying to do the best that they can.
Yeah.
Like that's all that you can ask.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can. Like we used to tell our kids too. They're like, "Oh, this isn't fair." Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, you didn't come with an instructional book.
Yeah.
Especially like our firstborn. It was like, this is our first one. I've never been through this before. This is. I mean, I could read. Same thing with having kids. I could read every book, listen to every doctor, listen to every podcast, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to be fully prepared to be a parent.
No.
I'll do the best I can.
Right.
And that's all we can do is the best.
Right.
The best that we can.
But I think you have a good point. Is bringing up the uncomfortable conversations sooner, so that it's not like, I don't know, people enter marriage now and they're like, well, if it doesn't work, it just is gonna end, and that's fine. Yeah. But that's not.
But if it's a lifelong commitment, you want to be,
on the same
ready
page
for the tough stuff that's gonna come your way,
right,
and not think, oh, it'll just be fine, and
and be able to have the conversations and be able to get through the conversations.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like, we're blessed in that we were both very interested in learning about what it, what I mean, like what marriage is and everything that comes along with that. But I think, I don't want to say it like you said, we're a weird couple, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean that all positive.
So like we did a lot of looking into like you were even saying, like we have the book, Good News About Sex and Marriage by Christopher West, excellent book. Or like
we would highly recommend that book
because it covers
West podcast too.
Yes, they answer some of like the biggest questions I think we've had about marriage and stuff I didn't even think
amazing
of.
Stuff
like questions I didn't even know I had until he was addressing it, and I thought, oh, that's so good we know that. I'm so glad we know that before going into marriage.
I think we were lucky enough to find something that answered questions that we didn't know were there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, not like the questions are answered and it's done and figured out, but just like, oh wow, I've never thought about this before. And then because the podcast is with a married couple. They've been married for
Christopher and Wendy,
20-some years.
About almost 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like they just do this podcast where they answer questions from people. He works with the Theology of the Body Institute.
I was gonna say, that being said, they need to be credible. So he lives and breathes theology of the body, and I'm pretty sure the Catholic Church would have shut him down if he was spreading anything that was not within Catholic doctrine. So that being said, there are some podcasts out there that do spread misinformation, which
there's plenty of
even
bad stuff
considered Catholic ones. So just make sure they're credible sources.
Right.
But I think you're right, that would probably be helpful for engaged couples, is just to, I don't even know what you could do, like maybe have a really early on retreat instead of like just sometime before you get married. Because there was a couple that we were with that gets married in less than a month here. Like they're getting married in March and they had their marriage retreat at the end of January.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh dear, like there's stuff that, like if you did a marriage retreat or like an engagement retreat right after people get engaged, and I know you can't probably offer one that often.
It's probably hard to encourage right away, because especially couples that might not be super involved with the church, they're just kind of figuring it out as they go, as far as how does the process work with getting married in the church.
What do I have to do, and communicate? How do I communicate? How do I
and
how do you argue?
That's fun to figure out.
Fight fair.
Oh my gosh. Father David up north says we've lost the art of arguing. Like you could do it and then go and have like a beer together, and it's okay.
And it's okay
to disagree.
Right. It's okay to walk away. And
you can still be friends later. It's
right.
It's not like, all right, this is it. Makes or breaks us.
This is the big one.
And I think that goes with the culture, that I think our relationships are so fragile.
Oh yeah.
Now that people, if you disagree with me, we're walking away. I cannot be friends with you. I can't do this.
Culture says,
and then that translates into our marriages as well. That our relationships are so fragile.
You're not affirming me. We're done.
You're done. Yeah, that's it.
It's not about affirming. It's about caring. And
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, I will just know that I'm praying for you guys and everything, because this is great. But I also pray too, because you had mentioned like you guys working with married couples down the road, and pray that you continue to be so articulate about the faith and about where you are in the faith, because I think that is what people need to hear, and people will connect with, because people will they'll find that and they're like, that we got to talk to them, because they have something, and we want that as well.
Isn't that funny?
And you guys being able to articulate that is huge, as well as you do. So
humans are good at, I feel like humans are really good at recognizing when there's truth there, and then there's that spark of interest. You know? Like, what is it that they're talking about that speaks to my heart? But I think a lot of times we're like, oh, shut that down.
It brings up discomfort, so we turn away.
Oh, then we turn away. Yeah,
absolutely. But you grow.
And people become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I know the uncomfortableness of my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to stay in that because I understand that.
Yeah.
Whereas if I come out of that and I'm challenged, I don't understand being challenged. I don't understand how to live that uncomfortably. I'm good being uncomfortable here, being kind of off balance, and I understand it. And so I think people are subtle for that. Sometimes we end up settling for the lowest common denominator in our life, and that's the easiest thing. We're just gonna do that.
Yeah.
And don't rise up to that.
Path of least resistance.
It is. It is.
It's less painful. It's less uncomfortable, but
it is. So thank you guys for doing this. I know it went fast.
Yeah, it did.
Fast, but thank you guys very much.